Happy Disclosure Day, Monty. What did you get me?
I liked it in the movie Disclosure Day when they said this is Disclosure Day, and then they Disclosure Dayed all over the
They
movie.
disclosured all over the earth.
They just disclosed everything all over Earth.
That's
Well,
right.
guys, we're talking about Disclosure Day today, and what you need to know is that the critic reviews that you have been seeing are a lie. This movie is terrible. Like, I say this as somebody who generally at least finds Spielberg's films to have some redeeming qualities. Even in Spielberg's worst movies, there's a certain sweetness, some might call saccharine, that I really find appealing. You know, I'm a big fan
I like
of
Spielberg.
a lot of his films.
Yeah.
And this one, however, has almost nothing redeeming about it. And
Monty, the
yes.
reviews are like real life Wardex trying to keep you from knowing the truth that this movie is not good.
Yeah, it's true.
And we're here today to disclose to you the truth that you deserve, that 8 billion people on this planet deserve to know that Disclosure Day is not a very good film.
Do not watch this movie, by the way. And it really is shocking because this took a confluence of a bunch of people being terrible, which is very strange because you look at the credits and you say, "Oh, Steven Spielberg directed. Oh, John Williams did the score. Oh, David Koepp wrote the screenplay. Oh, Janusz Kamiński was the cinematographer." And you might think to yourself, wow, these are some extremely accomplished people who have made some great films. And you would be right.
They are.
However, every single one of these people sucks at this movie, which is, you know, the amount of sucking collectively that it must have taken to make this film. Because how can you not love John Williams? How can you not love David Koepp, who has done a lot of Spielberg and Brian De Palma films? He wrote Jurassic Park and Carlito's Way. He wrote the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. He's written some really like good, even if they're not top tier films, they're great popcorn movies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And many of these are classics.
And Jurassic Park is one of the best films ever made for many reasons, partially the story. But I'll tell you my theory on this right off the bat. I feel watching this, I feel like what we saw was a chopped up like chunks of a larger, better story that were like, well, this is too long. It's got too much going on. We have to cut it down to make a movie out of it. And I feel like a lot of stuff was just left out. And there was a situation where it was like they knew the whole scope of the story. And so for them, the cuts and alterations made sense because they still had the full thing in their heads, but we don't. And so there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of, there's setup and no payoff. There's a lot, and so I that's my theory. My theory is that this actually came from a pretty good story and it just got chopped up and to the point where, lost in the sauce, as they say, to where, they didn't really, I feel like they didn't really understand that we don't have the full context that they do,
Yeah. And really what is the thing that's most terrible about this movie is the writing and the world that they put you in, because you spend almost 2.5 hours watching this movie, and you might think that you would understand certain things at the end, and you understand absolutely nothing about what is going on. And it's not one of those movies where it's complicated and you need to watch it again. It's that there are simply no explanations for what's happening. And you know what? Fine. You could make an obtuse movie. Maybe it's still interesting thematically, let's say. Maybe it's a metaphor for something else.
Sure.
But the problem with Disclosure Day is that it doesn't approach any kind of interesting philosophical or metaphysical ideas. It tries rather ham-fistedly, but says nothing. It just says like, look, this abstract point exists. And you, the viewer, say, hey, movie, would you like to provide me with some insight into said abstract concept? And the movie says, no.
Yeah, this movie felt very like all frosting, no cake, if that makes sense, where it's a very good looking film. There's plenty of fun moments, like good action moments, I think, in the movie. But yeah, when you kind of like look a little bit deeper, there's really nothing in there, and I kept kind of waiting for, a little bit more of an explanation of what was happening. And like I said, it's perfectly fine to have a movie where you don't explain everything and you leave things up to mystery and you have people draw their own conclusions. That's been done very well in a lot of other movies. That said, you still need to give people enough to make their own conclusions with, and I feel like
which you don't get here.
Yeah, we kind of got
you
like
literally leave the theater being
75%
like,
of the
I
way
don't
there.
know what it happened.
Well,
at the end of
that's
this
a really
movie.
funny thing to bring up because like that's one thing that struck me after this movie. I've never seen people look the way they look after watching this movie. People were walking out of the theater and in like a daze, not in like not in a way where like you've just seen Lord of the Rings Return of the King and you're like, this is one of the best films that's ever been made. Not like that kind of thing where you're just awestruck. This was just kind of uncomfortable confusion where you're just like, I feel like I was supposed to get something out of that, but they're like, it didn't seem like there really was anything.
What was it supposed to be? Like,
and
the problem
maybe,
is that
maybe part of it.
You don't know what you're supposed to be thinking. You know.
Well, let me finish real quick. Like, I think I think that part of it is that we live in a world that's too cynical for this movie too right now. This idea that like, people would believe this stuff when it finally does get out, even, if it is on the news and all that, especially in the context of supposedly some sort of gigantic global crisis where there's like runs on supplies at gas stations and stuff even, we're kind of shown that the world is in chaos right now. So, even if the world was perfectly calm, people like, oh, they're aliens, like half the population probably wouldn't believe it anyway. So the fact that people were just immediately buying into it in that final scene too, I'm like, I don't know. I just don't feel like that's believable, right now. Maybe that could have worked in like the 80s, maybe the 90s, but like not now. So I do think there is a little bit too much uh cultural cynicism right now to accept a story like this. That may be part of it too, I think.
I don't even think it's necessarily that, Doa. I think the problem with this is that it feels very out of touch. And it is because it's a bunch of boomers making this movie. Because even if you interrogate the core concept, which is, I'm going to describe this.
Okay.
So the film is about a Edward Snowden-esque whistleblower who has evidence of aliens being experimented on and researched, their technology researched for the past 70 years since the Roswell crash in 1947, right? And they have decades of video files that this Snowden-like character steals, right? Alongside an alien artifact. And basically, there is a military corporation called Wardex that also has been in cahoots with the government, and it's so secret that even the president of the United States doesn't know about, because he becomes a civilian after 4 to 8 years.
Nixon ruined it for everybody. Let's be honest. It was going just fine. They were telling other presidents, and then Nixon ruined it.
So yeah, they stopped
Spoiler
telling
alert.
the president. And Doe is right. Nixon, they actually have a video, and I shit you not, Nixon showing a TV actor an alien corpse. This movie is
trustworthy
terrible.
actor. He never spilled the beans. Yeah.
So anyway, it's the core premise is about, this weather woman on TV news waking up and gaining powers that are never really described.
Well, she gets them from a bird.
She gets them from she gets them
maybe
from a bird.
Alien. Maybe
that was also an alien. And her powers include like psychic reading of people's minds and manipulating their perception to have them see her as their loved ones, or possibly other things. We don't really know. So this is all to say that there is cool. The guy and the girl are running away with the Edward Snowden guy, and the weather woman are running around away from the private military corporation and the U.S. government, and they're trying to get to disclose on Disclosure Day the existence of aliens. So, but the point here, Doa, is that the year is 2026. And you can tell this is written by boomers because the ultimate climax of this film is that they are going to the Kansas City station where the weather woman works to barge in on air to show everybody. Yeah. But Doa, Like,
Uh-huh.
TikTok exists. Just upload the fucking videos.
Yeah, well, that is one thing that I love about this, where it's like the answer is the only way to get out to everybody is television. I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
like, duh,
Like,
duh,
what are you talking
like, duh.
about? Put a YouTube
I'm
video
just-
up, man. Like,
Oh, yeah,
you put it out on
so-
TV, and 90% of the population isn't going to know what happened.
Like, okay, so and people might say, well, the TV validates it. Yeah, right. It's 2026. Half the people don't believe that shit anyway. And
Yeah.
also, Doa, if you want a real journalist to vet it, just email it to the New York Times or something. Like, my God, you don't have to hijack a live television broadcast. And to your point, Doa, that might make sense if this was a Spielberg film from 1993, like Jurassic Park. But this is a movie that's made in 2026.
Well, the going beyond that, like forget Dr. Daniel Kellner, who has stolen all the data. Forget Margaret Fairchild, who is psychic and could appear as anybody. Forget them completely. We find out later on that Hugo, played by Coleman Domingo, does a great job. A lot of good performances in the movie for sure, but he's already rescued one of the aliens. So why do we need any of this stuff to begin with when he can literally just like bring the alien onto a video, like just somebody's phone films the alien, maybe a couple other people, like maybe just takes it out in public, and then everybody knows.
But also,
like, you don't need to do this whole big song and dance with like the house.
Yeah, exactly. Hugo, by the way, used to work for Wardex and is also a whistleblower, so theoretically has the knowledge. He has literally an alien and the knowledge. So why can't he go and do this? Like when I say nothing makes sense, and sure, movies have plot holes. We frequently, we laugh at them and then we move on if the movie's good. The problem specifically with Disclosure Day is that the plot holes are so constant and obvious. You cannot think about anything else while watching this movie besides how stupid it is.
Yeah. I mean, when you're watching something and your brain is going like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Hey, that shouldn't be that way. Another great example of this is when Daniel's like out in the field and then he's sneaking back to steal one of the cars when like all the Wardex people show up at the farmhouse, and there's 50 guys there and Daniel's in a wide open field
trying to kill him.
Only one of them needs to turn around, and remember, they're looking for him. They're looking for him, and you're not going to tell me a giant search party looking for somebody isn't going to be looking in all directions at once, or even one of them turns around. That fence was not hiding him. Like it's things like that where it's like those scenes. You're like, how in the world do they not see this guy? Like, are these people all stupid? And no, it's just kind of lazy writing. It's like we need him to steal a car, but like, why couldn't you have it take place where there's like a thicker forest he can sneak through, or like some sort of believable way he can sneak up and do
guys,
this?
He's actually just like duck running
wide open
through
field.
an open field. And when we say there's a fence, we mean there's like a single 2x4 hiding him that you could clearly see him in his dark clothing. I mean, it's absurd.
It's like hiding on the level of like my preschooler hiding, and like she's halfway sticking out from behind the door, and you're like, oh, where'd you go? It's like that level of hiding skill, and yet Wardex just does not see him.
Well, and also, nothing is explained in this movie. You basically just sit there for 2.5 hours waiting for them to explain anything about the aliens. And you think, as you get towards the end of the film, when they're going to take Emily Blunt's character, who's psychic, and explain her psychic powers. And in fact, they rebuilt her childhood house in this warehouse so that she could remember this incident where she was abducted and given these powers by the aliens when she was 10. And she gets in there, and then all she does is touch an alien artifact, and it's never even explained why they needed the house in the first place. Because
why does Daniel need to be there? It's not his house.
So why does Daniel need to be there? He wasn't there. Why do they need to make this house?
Yeah.
Because she literally just enters her own memory or like a hallucination by touching this alien artifact. So it literally has nothing to do with the house. And they don't even bother to say stuff like, well, you have to have this certain emotion in place. You have to be feeling the emotion of being home in order to touch this artifact. They don't even bother to tell you that. So what happens is it appears when you're watching the film that she's just there for no reason.
Yeah.
And by the way, there is never any explanation. That's not true. There is an explanation, Joe, but it goes like this.
Okay.
When they say, why Emily Blunt's characters got the powers, and the other guy got crazy math skills because the other guy,
It's their language.
yeah, it's the language of the universe, and so they made him like a super mathematician, and they said that they gave him powers to explain the universe or understand the universe, and they gave Emily Blunt powers to understand humanity, but it was
Okay.
only the two of them. Do they explain why it was the two of them? No. Do they explain why they need these powers? No. Do they do anything with these powers? Also, no.
Not other than like use them to try to avoid death, you know? That's it.
Or
So
go to the TV station to air the footage.
yeah. But I mean, this movie is filled with that kind of stuff where it's like this filled with a lot of whys, and they're not like interesting whys. They're like dumb whys where it's like, why is Wardex super happy to shoot at our heroes, except in situations where they could hit them very easily? For instance, when they're in the big warehouse and they're invisible. Ooh, everyone's invisible, but they know they're right there. They even start to see guys like running into things and all that. Why wouldn't you just pull out your guns and start shooting? It's been well established that they want to kill these people. So there's your perfect opportunity. Just pull out the guns and start shooting. You know they're there. There's a ton of you. Somebody's going to hit something. You know. So,
but Doa,
what's your why?
That was an excellent opportunity to include some tone deaf slapstick humor
and kind of questionable special effects, but I want to keep going with the whys. Do you want to have one, or do you want me to do another one?
Okay, I'll keep going.
Go for it.
Why are the aliens on Earth? Never explained. Why do they keep crashing all of their
we're supposed to
spaceships?
alternate.
Okay, go.
All right. No. I like yours though. Let's talk about yours for a moment though. Like that's something else. I actually thought about that too when I was watching all the footage. Just like, man, they seem to really crash their ships a lot. Like, what's wrong with these guys? Like, why do they?
Are they drunk?
Is there something about Earth that makes them keep crashing their ships? Like we see them flying sometimes and flying very intricately sometimes. And some of the clips and other clips, like the ship crash, are they just like crazy, like adrenaline junkie aliens where it's just like, oh man, like Phil crashed another ship. Whoops. You shouldn't be. And the other aliens are like, I live my life 1/4 parsec at a time, you know? And it's there's that. Okay, here's another one. Why is it that the aliens have chosen only 2 people? If they want humanity to know about their existence, wouldn't they just like send birds to a lot of people? You know, and going off of the animal thing, why be animals to lure people into your ship because it makes them more comfortable? But then when you're on the ship, turn into scary aliens and terrify them
while you experiment on them.
Yes, exactly. You just make them look at some things, you know.
Or I mean, I don't know, just anesthetize them.
You got another one? I've got more.
I'm not a doctor. Yeah. Why do the aliens look like the aliens from Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Is this supposed to be some sort of sequel?
It's a shared universe. That's why. It's the alien verse. Here's one. Why does Colin Firth's character, what's his name? Noah? Why does Noah bother like warging into all these different people to try to find information? Instead of just, be homicidal with each of them, because he was homicidal with the one person with Eve, did he just decide he didn't want to like try to do that anymore? I mean, there's so many ways you could get your assassination mission, as again, it's well established they're trying to kill them. You could do that with a lot of different, like, remember at the end when Hugo is like talking to people and the people come in, hey, we want to test them, like, get out. Oh no, he's seen them. And then immediately you'd think, Noah could just start like warging into everybody there and like causing chaos, right? And that would have been a pretty cool scene actually, but he's just like, nah, he's just not gonna do it. That's a big why for me.
So when Noah says warging in, that he literally uses this alien technology to warg into people, like from Game of Thrones.
I guess we should explain what warging is. I guess we just started using this term.
He astrally projects himself using an alien artifact into other people to take like control of them.
It's like when that guy in Game of Thrones, I can't even remember, Bran. It's when Bran in Game of Thrones will like see through the eyes of animals and stuff, and then occasionally people later, they call it warging, so this is the same thing, right? So they're warging.
That's what I was calling it too, when he wargs into people. Which by the way,
people understand.
Yeah, exactly. And why when he wargs into people, can he not warg into what's his name? Dr. Daniel Kellner. So he can't, because the movie, the only way they explain it, Doa, is that they just say, well, he can't do that because Dr. Kellner is an experiencer. Now, they never tell us what an experiencer is.
That raised a whole nother why for me, which is like, okay, so if there are only two of them, it's only Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor, that's actors. It's only them who are the two. Why do they even have a term for this thing? Doesn't that suggest that there are more people out there that, have these kind of abilities? It's kind of implied that he can't warg into Hugo either. And yet Hugo, like, is his magic power building people's childhood homes? Like, why have a term for this thing if there's only two of them? If it seems like if there was like, oh, he's an experiencer, that would imply there was enough of these people to warrant naming that type of ability, right? So that's another kind of like, well, what's going on here? Are there only two of them or not? It's like if you only have two of something and you're like, I'm gonna give this like a cool name. It's like, why don't you just call it what it's called? I don't know. I just want to give it a cool name,
I've got another one.
Okay.
Why don't the extremely high-tech aliens save each other from the torture that's happening?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really good one. Like, if they're so all powerful and all that, they have all these ships, all this amazing technology. Why don't they use just a fraction of it?
By the way, they're constantly coming to Earth for the last 8 decades.
And they can appear as anything they want to. They could easily infiltrate these places and free their friends. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of freeing their friends, why do they appear to Emily Blunt at 10 years old, wait almost 20 years to activate her, and then have her show stuff on the news?
Well, they had to wait till she was they had to wait until she got a job at a television station, because TV is the only way people will accept information in 2026, Monty. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Like, so, I don't know. This whole movie is just why.
I've got more.
Why any of this? Go ahead.
Why does Noah just completely, the villain who has spent the entire movie warging into people and trying to murder them with knives via other people, why at the end of the movie, when Hugo just walks up to him and said, no, Noah, you only kept this information about extraterrestrials from people, not because it would cause everybody to freak out and cause global panic, which is a reasonable concern.
Very legit. Yeah.
Very legit. No, it wasn't that. It was actually, you were just greedy. And then all of a sudden Noah's like, yeah, you're right. And then he just sat there and let them disclose all of the documents.
He's kind of like, Noah, you've been no fun since your wife died. What's the deal? That's basically like his argument is like, get over it, Noah.
And then his murderous streak just went away.
I guess so. And like, if you're going to try to tell us that this is like, like a war profiteering thing where, this technology is going to be used by the government for, arms and stuff like that, then show that, show Noah profiting from this, show him living a lavish lifestyle or something. But they don't. All we see of Noah is he just sits in a chair the entire movie like, hello, I'm here to tell you that the world is not ready yet to experience the aliens. Hold on. I'm not ready yet to tell you you cannot experience the aliens. They're too beyond you, really. Yes.
And that brings up another question, though, which is why he's holding a pen, because that's what the thing looks like. Why does the alien artifact look so fucking lame? It's just a rock.
It's just an alien. It's just like, oh, the technology is so beyond us. It looks like crystals.
But you bring up another good point, though, which is they tell us that they were experimenting on the aliens and like torturing them, but there was a goal because they were reverse engineering the technology, but they don't describe any of the technology or, like you say, show it.
We see zero
that was reverse engineered.
Apparently they didn't do a very good job.
What were they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, what were they doing for the last 80 years? What was the
80
technology that they reverse
79
engineered?
years. That's right. They tell us they've been doing this for 79 years. They say it multiple times, and yet we
Look,
have no idea.
if you
Yeah.
told me at some point in this movie, well, that's how we learned how to make computer chips, I'd be like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
I can buy some of this, and you know, this technology came from it, et cetera, et cetera.
GPS,
Or
the
they
internet.
showed, you know, it was an alternate universe where they showed us technology that doesn't exist on our Earth, but they don't do that either.
Mhm.
It's like just normal 2026. So my
Yeah, yeah.
question
Or
is,
here's okay. I fixed it. All right. I fixed Noah's motivation. If he's not going to be a war profiteer, here's how you do it. You're like, we reverse engineered this technology, and it led to computers, which led to networking. The aliens, their true power is their supernatural communication, and we tried to give humanity the grand consciousness of the internet and connectivity, but look what it's done to our society. If this is an example of just what a fraction of the aliens technology has done to humanity, imagine what would happen if all this alien stuff was out in the open. We have to keep it a secret. Doesn't that sound like a much better setup and
unfortunately, though,
motivation
it
for that?
runs directly into the problem of if they were going to do that, they would also have to explain why they don't just disseminate the files via the internet.
That is also a thing. Yeah. Okay. I've got another why.
All right.
So when when Dr. Daniel Kellner gets off the phone with Hugo that one time, and when he finds out that he's an experiencer and he has mass superpowers, blah blah blah, why does the crop circle happen around him? Is there any reason for that?
That's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Do we have any? He shows no evidence of manipulating things physically around him before or after this happens. This wasn't the burgeoning of some sort of new psychic ability. It just happened, and that's it. It was like when a title pops up in an MMO because you like unlocked something. You're like, now you're an you're an experiencer. Congratulations. Bring. But yeah, there's this big crop circle. We have no
he's
idea
standing
why.
in a field, and then a crop circle just appears,
Yeah.
which also
and
is
by the
like,
way, none of the Wardex people notice this when they're driving up. Like, what's that big crop circle? What a coincidence, man. We're going to this house, a big crop circle out there.
and
probably nothing.
And they know that crop circles are actually caused by aliens because we see videos of it later on.
Exactly.
I've got another one. Why, when we're shown videos of not small, like giant, mile-high alien spaceships flying through the clouds in front of 747s, whose passengers could definitely see them, how did they manage to keep the aliens under wraps for 79 years? Especially because it seems like thousands of Wardex employees know about them, and all it would take is one person going to the press and being like, you know what, aliens are real. Why would it be Dr. Daniel Kelder, or whatever his name is the first person in 79 years to want to tell people the truth?
Well, Hugo,
either for moral reasons or for money.
Hugo Wakefield. I mean, and they are lucky that the people that decided to finally disclose things decided to avoid the most effective means of disseminating information in the internet. And we're like, now we got to get it to a TV station with the alien there, like trying to set up some like weird final round of Clue or something like that. The alien in the TV
Where
station.
was Hugo keeping
with
the alien?
All the USB ports. I don't know. It's childhood home, probably. Yeah. It boggles my mind that you could have this movie. And the thing is, I know people were feeling emotions while watching this. I felt emotions while watching this. And I think that's tricking a lot of people in that they feel tension, they feel drama, they have scenes. When she walks into her childhood home, you think, well, what would it be like to walk into my childhood home? And you get that sort of flow of nostalgia. And so this movie is very good at creating emotional reactions to trick you into not worrying about the lack of a comprehensible story, is the big takeaway I got from this.
I mean, possibly. Like, I just thought it was super funny, Noah. And I would be honest with you. The funniest part for me was when they were showing all of the black and white old photographs of them like picking up alien corpses from the crash
Uh-huh.
and torturing the aliens. Because Noah, you can't watch this movie and know Steven Spielberg and not immediately think that this is some sort of crossover between Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Schindler's List, where it's like
Whoa.
Schindler's List, but with
Okay.
aliens.
Okay. Wow. I did not expect that take.
So I expected, Noah, for there just to be like this dead alien in a red coat at some point in time. But because it's such a visual callback to Schindler's List, it either reads as parody or like, I don't know if he was intentionally trying to reference himself and saying like, remember the Nazis? This is what the Nazis did in my movie to the Jews. And this is what people are doing to the aliens.
I don't think it was that.
Noah, I don't know how you could be Steven Spielberg and his cinematographer, Janusz Kamiński, who was also the cinematographer on Schindler's List, and not think about Schindler's List when you're making black and white alien corpse shoveling.
I didn't make that connection because I feel like I've seen like fake alien autopsy videos on the internet that look more realistic than what I saw in this movie, you know? And I think that's a big part of it too, is it's hard to take any of it seriously when it all looks so goofy. And again, like, this is where I do think the movie feels a little bit dated too, is that they chose to go with the very typical, the Greys, you know, the aliens with the skinny bodies
aliens
and
from
big
Close
heads.
Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right, exactly. And it's the aliens. And if you watch interviews with Steven Spielberg about this movie, the reason he went that direction is because that's the type of alien that people tend to describe the most when they describe, you know, alien encounters in real life, quote unquote, you know. So he decided to do that because it, you know, it jived most with, you know, that sort of thing. But again, like, I don't think I'm like a terribly cynical person. I think I'm a pretty optimistic, open person overall. But like, you know, seeing an alien that looks like that looks goofy in a nostalgic way, the same way seeing He-Man looks goofy in a nostalgic way, you know, where it's like, yeah, that's a good old alien. I recognize that. Yep. That's the one they told us.
But it's also really
Yep.
difficult to feel bad for these aliens, because all we hear, though, is that we're told that they're being tortured. But we see one like 2-second clip of something that could or could not be alien torture.
Well,
And
we
then
don't really need to see more of that, though, I feel like.
But Noah, they're also, we don't ever hear anything about the aliens' motivations or see them in a positive light. So I feel nothing when I look at the aliens because I don't know anything about them.
Well, like,
I don't know anything.
Why do the aliens want to help us if we keep torturing them when they crash?
But
you know?
But also a bunch of the alien corpses were just like them crashing.
Yeah,
their spaceships,
unforced air aliens.
Yeah, exactly. They're just drunk, man. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
why'd they crash their ship?
Here's another why for you. Why did they make a component of the movie the thought experiment of, if there are aliens, can there be faith in the Judeo-Christian God? Where it's like, why that one religion, and then why altogether? Like, I feel like that was another thing where they were trying to say something, but they weren't really. Where the nuns were just like, yeah, why not? I mean, if God's the master of the universe, why can't he have more than one planet? Like, what's so hard to believe about that, you know? And so you're like, oh, I guess that's it. I guess it's not a very deep question, you know? It doesn't really affect your faith
so funny
at all,
is that she goes there and she talks to this one rando nun.
Hey, she knew that nun very well. It was like her
outside
mom nun.
of her mom nun outside of Washington, D.C. And I guess that not the Pope in the Catholic Church, that this nun is the authority on.
Well, she doesn't have a direct line to the Pope. What do you expect?
but the thing is, though, is it just hand waves it away, because it's like, yeah, what would Christians think about this? And then the nun's like, don't worry, it's cool. And then she's like, oh,
that's the thing.
Well, I guess it's fine. Don't worry. All right, it's solved. Problem solved.
They present it as like a major philosophical theme of the movie, and like a core thing for this character's crisis, right? And this like character's personal crisis. And then, yeah, they're just like, oh, it's not a problem. And you're
it's
like,
chill. Don't worry.
All right. I guess I didn't go anywhere. Sure. So, yeah.
And then we never wondered about it again.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. That was another thing. I was like, well, At least that arc had a resolution. That's maybe the only one that did. I feel bad for Jackson, Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son's character in this, who's another actor that I like. I like most of the actors in this movie, and I pretty much like all the actors in this movie. But that was another character where he kind of was just like there for a little while, and he was like kind of part of the story, and then like when they got to a certain point of the movie, they were like, well, enough of this guy. And so it didn't really feel like there was a satisfying conclusion. The character, he just sort of exited the movie when she left him at the gas station, basically. And then there's like one shot of him at the end where he's like, aliens are real. And, but that's about it. So that's what I'm saying. That feels like there should be like a little bit more of that, that character's arc in the story. It should be, like I said, this felt like 75% of a story, and they just cut the 25% that kind of like connected a lot of these things together, but because they knew about it in their heads, they didn't realize it.
Well,
Maybe I'm being too generous.
Why did they decide to end the movie this way? Because it is
Oh my God.
horrendous. The end is horrendous.
Yeah, it is. I knew something like that was coming too. I knew it because I was watching that scene. It's going on forever.
Let me describe the ending for you guys. So they go on air in this Kansas City television station, and they upload all of the videos and they show everybody. And then Hugo just comes in, wheeling in a wheelchair alien.
Who's inexplicably like 3 times taller than all the other aliens we've seen.
Yep.
Does that mean all the aliens flying around are like kids? No wonder they're crashing all the ships.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
And also is inexplicably in like a tarp that they have to unzip. So they unzip the tarp, and here's this giant alien in a wheelchair.
Old, and the alien, 'cause it's wrinkly.
It's wrinkly. And the alien just makes a bunch of clicking sounds that nobody can understand. Are there subtitles? No.
Oh, but it's okay. Daniel Kellner can understand it.
Yes, we know Daniel Kellner can understand them, but no one else can, and he doesn't translate it. So the alien clicks a bunch of times, and then Emily Blunt stares into the television camera and says, "Listen." And then it fades to black, and that's the end of the movie. But here's the thing, Doa. We don't know anything about the aliens' motivations, and we don't know what they're saying. So what am I supposed to listen to? What am I supposed to learn from this movie?
I'm going to assume that the next words out of her mouth is, the aliens want to tell us that we are all their slaves now. The end.
But this is what I'm saying. The only thing we know about the aliens is that we are told, we don't even really see that they're getting tortured, and that they've crashed a bunch on the planet, and that their technology is being studied, and that they chose these 2 individuals to give super math and super empathy skills to. And that's literally all we know about the aliens. That is the sum total of information that the audience has.
Yeah.
So what the fuck am I supposed to listen to?
The ending is a microcosm of the movie as a whole, because it's a lot of setup, the anticipation of delivering some sort of deep philosophical message, and then you get nothing, which is basically this entire movie.
Yes,
is
true.
A lot of all the setup and no payoff, right? And here's another why for you. Here's another why for you that I just thought of.
Right.
Now, if these aliens are so hyper intelligent and all that, why did they create an artificial game of telephone where information can be messed up by having to talk to this guy who then has to translate it to her, who then has to tell it to the rest of the world? Like, isn't that just making more room for error in communication?
Why can't they just write it the fuck down, Noah?
Yeah, or just let her be able to say it, and then, or why can't they just speak it to us telepathically through a million ants?
Through the technology that they have that allows them to warg into people?
Yeah, why can't they just show up in everybody's heads and be like, "Hey guys, we're the aliens. Everything's fine. Don't worry. We're here to bring you peace and joy."
They're the ones who have the warging technology. So why don't they warg? Why does only Colin Firth warg?
Yeah, I mean, were the cells they were keeping the aliens in somehow preventing them from doing this? Who knows?
But they were also flying around everywhere, Doa. They could have done it at any point in time.
Yeah, or like the alien that did escape, why wasn't that alien constantly warging all over the place trying to help our heroes out? When Boyd was shooting at them, why didn't the alien warg into his head and be like, "Stop shooting," Like, why didn't the alien warg into Noah's head and be like, "All right, it's really time to chill, man." Like,
and also let go of my friends.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, why didn't Warg into one of the guards, immediately after being released, and like the guard opens up all the cells? Like that's this this movie makes no sense. This movie makes no sense. There's nothing. Like, everyone is just stupid in this movie. I don't say that lightly. And when I say that, I need to clarify by saying everybody kind of makes the worst decisions all the time, or shows us that they're very capable, but then doesn't use any of those capabilities.
So Noah, the other problem is that I was thinking, okay, well, what if this movie was some kind of metaphor instead? All right. So I was trying to think about it through a different lens. And I thought, is this some sort of immigration commentary? But the problem with that idea, Doa, is that the aliens literally give superpowers to people. So like, I'm not sure there's a way to interpret this film besides literally.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a lot of hidden meaning, that you're
Exactly.
missing. Like,
there's no layer. I was really trying that. I was like, is this some sort of commentary on people hating immigrants or being bad?
No,
I'm like, do you mean like Alien as a double entendre?
That movie
it's
already
just not there.
The movie about alien immigration already exists. It's great, and it's called District 9.
Exactly.
that theme's already been covered extremely well. In fact, now that I think about it, that movie really kind of covers a lot of the stuff that this movie is trying to do in a much better way. Turning a human into the avatar of the aliens, essentially. Humans misusing alien technology, experimenting on aliens, the promise of aliens returning in greater numbers and all that. How do you treat aliens that have crash landed on Earth? Like, honestly, like, now that I think about it, you never need to watch Disclosure Day, because like District 9, I'm pretty sure did everything that this movie was trying to do better.
Look, you can watch a million better movies that explore these same concepts. If you want to talk about the world possibly freaking out, or how the human race on a global level would react to the existence of aliens, you can watch Contact or Arrival
or Independence Day, even.
Or Independence Day or Interstellar. The problem with this film, or fucking E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which are also two Steven Spielberg movies.
Yeah.
That's what's so infuriating about this.
Another Steven Spielberg movie.
These concepts that they think they're being clever exploring have already been done over and over and over again, and in really good movies, honestly. That's the problem, is that you can't watch this movie without thinking about a million better movies. I didn't even think about District 9, but you're totally right.
Yeah,
that's a great comparison.
I love that movie, by the way. But
it's a great movie.
I thought of another why. Why, when Boyd grabs the alien thing barehanded, does he just disappear for a second or two and then reappear and be unconscious? That's never explained.
It doesn't happen to anybody else.
Nope.
Why does Emily Blunt's alien artifact disintegrate?
Yeah,
but none of the other ones do.
She aliens too hard.
She warged too hard.
She used her magic powers too much. It's like a battery, apparently. You can use it up.
I have another why.
Okay.
Why is Colin Firth so awful in this movie?
He's very one note. It's like his face was frozen to only be able to make 50% of an emotion,
But why even cast him? Like, I think I like Colin Firth in The King's Speech, or he's
a great actor. Colin Firth is a great actor.
I like him when he's being goofy in Kingsman.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Kingsman. Yeah,
I like him in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yes,
I like him as Mr. Darcy in the Pride and Prejudice. Excellent, adaptation that he did. But the thing about Colin Firth is he's not a villain. And so when you try, his menacing face is just so fucking
Here's what it is.
goofy.
I just thought of this, and it's making me laugh for the last 2 minutes. The face he makes, in this movie, 90% of the time, is the same face a baby makes when it's pooping.
Yes,
it's kind of this
True.
this pushing kind of smile, kind of like smirk, like he's got baby pooping face. The entire movie.
But he's not menacing. So when he does, and
baby
also
pooping face.
He's also extra not menacing because, as you pointed out, he's just sitting there making baby pooping face with his fist around the alien artifact in the chair. And it's just like, it looks so stupid. And then on top of that, Doa, they put him in this ridiculous turtleneck to make him look like a Bond villain, but he's
Yeah.
like the shittiest Bond villain you've ever seen.
Well, here's another thing. Here's another thing. They talk about how dangerous it is. Oh, it's so dangerous to your health to do all this stuff. And like sometimes he acts like he has a headache. Sometimes he falls on the ground. But like we never really see any real consequences. We get people reading his medical stats, which is not really an effective way to show drama.
Like his VO2 is dropping.
Yeah, we
Like,
don't like see like
okay.
blood coming out of his nose or something. Like, give us some real consequences for him doing this. Like, sure, okay, over the course of the movie, it looks like it's kind of weakening him and all that, but like, not. It seems like he'll have a scene where he's like, "Oh, I can barely stand," and then 2 minutes later, he's like running around just fine and looking all. There's no consistency in how it affects him. So why have that in the first place if you're not really going to do anything with it? And the phrase "why have that in the first place if you're not really going to do anything with it" again is another great encapsulation of this film.
But I mean, it's also extra obvious how bad Colin Firth's performance is because Emily Blunt's performance is so good.
Yeah,
And
yeah, she
I
crushed
mean,
it.
I love Emily Blunt. She is the best thing about this movie by a large margin. But
Agreed.
everyone else, like Josh O'Connor, also has a very mediocre to bad performance.
He's
But
kind of
Colin
got
Firth
one
is
expression
so
too.
he's
kinda
got
got the
one
same
expression the whole
sorta
movie. He's very
worried.
dry. But Colin Firth is like actively, I mean, he's like a terrorist in this movie. He's actively sabotaging it. And you cannot watch his scenes without just laughing your ass off because he's so non-threatening.
It is amusing. I was like, why? It was kind of like Sigourney Weaver in Mandalorian and Grogu, where it's like, I know this person is a good actor. Like, so where is it? Where's the emotion? Where's the range? And especially like you said, when you have Emily Blunt just like absolutely crushing it, and then you've got even I thought like her name is Eve Hewson, who played Jane Blankenship, the girlfriend
Yeah,
of
she's
Daniel
pretty good.
Kellner. She did fantastic, I thought, as someone who's kind of thrown into this unwillingly, and then she has to be like possessed for a little while and be like a menacing villain, and she did a great job. I thought Coleman Domingo as Hugo did a great job of providing some emotional gravitas to all of it. uh it wasn't my favorite in the movie, but I thought he was really good too. Like I felt generally, aside from Colin Firth, sadly, which I feel it hurts me to say that because I like him as an actor, everyone else did a pretty
He's
good job, I
fucking
thought.
awful in this movie. I thought he was unbelievably bad.
Hmm.
Like I thought when we talked about The Mandalorian that Jeremy Allen White turned in just a complete shit show of performance, but man, Colin Firth, buddy, you might actually just take the cake for worst performance I've seen this year. Like,
Hey,
holy
well,
smokes.
we're only in June, man. It's only the middle of June. We're halfway through.
I just couldn't believe how bad it was.
So I do want to take a moment and talk about the thing I liked in this movie, where I almost said things, but really it's just one thing where Steven Spielberg is legitimately a great director. Like so
Yes.
many of the shots in this movie, the camera's moving from like one place to the other in like such a great way that frames everything perfectly. It's creative. It's very dynamic. Like when right from the beginning, you're like, man, there is something about Steven Spielberg movies that is on another level as far as like the direction goes. And it's very obvious throughout this whole thing, even if the story is completely idiotic. There's still a lot of that like Steven Spielberg flair, right? Which is another reason why I think a lot of people are giving this movie a pass, because they see that and they recognize it, even if they don't like, even if they're only recognizing it subconsciously, that visually it's well crafted in terms of
It also
yeah,
is
direction.
it is visually creative.
Yeah,
There's really
yeah,
interesting shots and like clever shots. I mean, you watch this
yeah,
movie, you're
like I
like,
said.
it looks good,
Mhm.
and like the visual pacing and editing is all very good, and you get surprising transitions
Mhm.
that keep you like visually engaged. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Spielberg hasn't lost his touch in that way, but I just have to question why he's literally sitting in the director's chair watching Colin Firth deliver this performance that he's like, well, I think we nailed it, Colin. Let's go on to the next scene. I'm like, dear God. Like, and then how he's sitting there and he's like, yep, this story makes sense. And everyone's going to stand up and clap and learn something new about themselves when he says nothing at all.
Mhm.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary how vapid this movie is.
Yeah, I really wonder what sort of the long-term view of this movie is gonna be, because I didn't check the box office, but I would assume it opened pretty well.
It's
You could
it's
You can
It's
check right
already
now.
made $100 million in its first weekend.
So I'm not surprised. It's Spielberg. That's going to bring people to the theater either way. And again, like the reviews have been pretty solid. I think it looked like Rotten Tomatoes was like 80 critics, 71 like viewer, if I remember right from when I checked it earlier this afternoon.
It's 68% on Rotten
Yeah,
Tomatoes,
there you
which
go.
is
It's
is
not that
like, I
great
mean,
actually.
look, let me make a comparison for you
What's
guys
He-Man at?
to Oh no, it's 81%. You're
Yeah,
right,
see,
Joe. It's
I thought it was
81% on
higher.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
That is insane. Let me put this to you differently. I'm going to
Oh,
compare this to another Spielberg movie.
okay.
The movie that he made called Hook has a 37%.
Oh, now that
And
is
look, I know Hook has problems, okay?
it's a kids movie. Come
It's
on.
a kids movie, okay? Uh I understand that there are certain issues with the way that the pacing is. Julia Roberts is awful as Tinkerbell.
Yeah, I didn't
But
notice when I was a
the thing
kid, but yeah.
the thing about Hook though is that it's fun and at least it has like a heartfelt message to it.
When I was a
And
kid, everybody wanted to be Rufio. Like,
yeah, and also
yeah,
Rufio is cool,
we all
but
wanted to
also
be Rufio.
the heartfelt message about rediscovering your inner childhood.
Yeah.
The fact, I mean, even the premise that Peter Pan went from being a child to Robin Williams as an adult, and that he is now basically a corporate pirate himself,
Mhm.
and he's doing these is just a brilliant conceit. And that he has to undergo, go back to Neverland and find himself. And also, you have great performances. Robin Williams,
Yeah,
right?
only
Dustin
Robin Williams
Hoffman
could
is
pull that role off, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman is great
Yes.
as Hook,
Yes.
right? And basically Smee, awesome. Bob Hoskins, like, he's got all these great actors around him. And you are telling me that Disclosure Day is an 81% and Hook is a 37%. Look, I
No
don't think
way.
Hook deserves to be an 81% either, but like, please, like, Disclosure Day is not a better movie than Hook.
Yeah. It's the illusion of depth. I'm telling you, man. It's like the combination of good cinematography and directing with you know the emotions that produces in people, and people just like take those emotions as the movie, and they don't really think about like the story. So I guess if you only care about how movies make you feel, and you're very susceptible, and I am susceptible to like movies making me feel emotions, but if you only judge movies on that, then you'll probably like this. If you are like me as well, where you really like to break down a story and have things be tight and like really well told, then everything falls apart immediately, right? So yeah, I think that's why it's got the early decent reviews. I do feel like this one is gonna go down as a bit of a dud once people get a little bit of distance from it and watch it at home on their TVs, and they'll be like, oh, when I'm not dazzled in the theater, this is kind of like the emperor's got no clothes, man. Yeah, it's
I mean, I was like I said, I think usually in a Spielberg movie, you can see the flaws, but there's also some sort of upside,
mhm.
right? And he is good at conjuring emotions, but it just doesn't happen for me in this movie. And there isn't any kind of uplifting message.
Mm.
That's the other problem is that the movie presents itself as like, oh, these are these moral people who are trying to expose this giant corruption and scandal and let the world know that, the universe is bigger than us and they're trying to do the right thing, right? But at the end, we don't even know what the aliens' motivations are, and all we get is listen, and it's like
Yeah.
there's no optimistic ending. Like, give me a fairy tale ending, Noah. At least give me that.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
It's all set up and no payoff. And there's, of course they're going to be like, well, it's all about what you take from it. It's all about what thoughts it makes you think. And you know what that is? That is lazy modern art BS, man. Because like this is a problem with like any given modern art gallery you go to these days, where it's like you look at this thing and it's completely nonsensical. You have no idea what it is unless you read through the entire page of like, by the artist next to the piece, and you're like, okay, so that's what they were trying. All right, well, I wouldn't have gotten that if I wouldn't have read about it. Well, guess what? That's a failed piece of art then. And trying to tell me that like, oh, it's about what you take from it. Like, no, well, then why are you making it in the first place? I could go look at like the clouds in the sky and call that great art if it makes me, think of something profound, right? But that's not art, So if your piece of art isn't communicating something, it is a failure. And I think this particular one has all the illusions that it's communicating something, but there is nothing there. There's nobody home, Don't get me started.
It is her childhood home in a warehouse. It's just a simulation, a hollow simulation with no meaning.
That's right.
It's an apt metaphor, though, because it appears to have meaning and memories, but it actually just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a complete fabrication.
You know what's going to be really interesting? To see the performance of this movie on streaming and like home viewing later on versus He-Man on streaming and home viewing now, because I got a feeling
dude,
He-Man's
I
gonna
was sitting in
do
that
way
theater
better.
I was sitting in that theater, Doa, wishing I was watching He-Man again. My God.
Yeah.
And you know what's sad is this has made double the money of He-Man already, and He-Man is a much better movie than this. And He-Man has no ambitions. It's literally a stupid He-Man movie. It just knows it's a stupid He-Man movie. This is a stupid movie that thinks it's being smart, and it's just hilarious.
And it also it fails to entertain.
I will say, if you want to laugh, it's very funny to watch this movie. It's very funny to watch this movie.
Yeah, I was not super entertained outside of the thought experiments when I tried to connect all the dots myself, and the ridiculous things like, why do the aliens, if they're so smart, keep crashing all the time? It's that's the kind of stuff that like entertained me. But I do have a little bit of good news for you, Monty, is that and Rotten Tomatoes is only so useful, but at least after 5,000 plus verified ratings, He-Man has an 87%. So, from fans, from the people, the true movie critics who are us, right? You and I, we're not great movie critics. We're just two guys. We're just two guys that used to talk about video games for a living. We like to talk about movies for fun, and here we are just still doing it because it's a good time, And so I'd like to think that we can be your avatars out there,
Do not watch this movie.
Imagine us as little cardinals flying through your window and staring you right in the eyes. And the mental message comes through that says, do not see Disclosure Day.
By the way, Dylan, here's another why for you. Why do the animals look so terrible in this movie?
The CG. Then the alien too.
The CG is so bad.
Yeah. I was shocked. At how bad the CG effects in this movie were. And it's like, here's the thing. Let's look at just the ending scene with that alien that shows up in the chair. We are in an era right now in Hollywood where everyone's going back to practical effects. Mandalorian and Grogu, the Ghostbusters movies, whatever, the push to have practical effects is greater now than it's been in the last 20 years, right? And so when you see something like the alien in this movie that is 100% CG, and frankly, not even very good CG. It stands out so much, CG. And it's laughable, and it takes you out of it.
And also, Spielberg is literally a guy who made the same aliens with practical effects in Close Encounters of the Third.
I know. I was like, and all you have is an alien in like a wheelchair kind of thing. Like, you're telling me that couldn't be a puppet? That could be a really great practical effect?
Why?
I don't know. And here's the thing. Like, I feel like I need to like look up, if the, what was, nobody's going to have this information out there, but like, I have this, like, I'm worried that it was a practical effect and it just looks so bad. It looked like CG, but like, I'm pretty sure it was just a CG alien.
Well, you just get angry at the animals who like the deer and the fox and everything that looked absolutely awful.
I played the demo for the new Star Fox 64 remake on my Nintendo Switch, and the Fox McCloud in that game looked like a more realistic fox than the fox in Disclosure Day. and Fox McCloud is supposed to be an anthropomorphic fox starfighter pilot, and he looked like a more real fox.
Unbelievable, duh.
Yeah,
unbelievable. But yes, do not listen to anybody who tells you this movie is good or even mediocre. This is a very bad movie. Unbelievably bad. I was shocked at how bad it was. Like I said, because usually I find Spielberg films to have some redeeming qualities, and this actually, the only thing is Emily Blunt's performance. That's it. And if you want to watch any kind of movie that's about this that's better. We already named a bunch of them, but you can even go back and watch old Spielberg movies.
Yeah.
Do not watch this movie. There are a million better Alien movies, including other Spielberg movies. There's a million better Spielberg movies you could be watching than this. There's more. He makes deeper movies. He makes more profound movies like Schindler's List. He makes better popcorn movies like Jurassic Park, like almost Close Encounters, E.T., anything. Almost anything he's done is better than this.
And he's got like multiple better Aliens Come to Earth movies, like E.T., War of the Worlds. Like it's not even just like one. That's a crazy thing. It's like, this is ground that did not need to be retread, you know? I don't know. I think this is gonna be a movie people look back at and they're like, what went wrong? What in the world were they thinking? And they were like, man, only the Monty and Doa got it right. Everyone else was saying this movie was so great. But those two guys, they saw through the brainwashing from
anyway
Spielberg's and the organization that tries to convince everyone that Disclosure Day is a good movie, but they saw through it because
anyway. I love Emily Blunt.
We're experiencers. Monty,
experiencer. Yeah, I highly do not recommend that you be an experiencer of Disclosure.
There can only be let us be the experiencers. You don't need
the only two experiencers of Disclosure Day.
Yeah, it was us all along.
All right, that'll do it. We'll see you guys next time. Till then.